Greetings. In this video, you're going to learn how much money you're going to need for retirement, and this will certainly surprise you, maybe shock you. How to overcome your pride. In other words, what's holding you back from getting help. By the time the video is over, you'll be able to decide whether bankruptcy is an option for you or not. As we have demonstrated in the previous video, debt is robbing you and your family of the ability to save money. Debt has to go. It must go. How you do it is up to you, and with the information provided in this video, we hope to give you enough options so you can decide intelligently. So how much do you need when you retire? Well, in order to get an idea of how much you will need to spend, you need to determine how much you're currently spending. This requires a budget. I know, I hate them too. For a rough idea of what you spend, look at your previous year's bank statements and credit card statements. You can total up all the expenses for each month in both for the year and then divide by 12 to get an estimate of your monthly spending. You may be thinking that your expenses will certainly be less when you retire. After all, you won't be driving to work every day, you won't be needing new clothes for work, and you have to get your clothes dry cleaned anymore. You won't have to. Well, this is true. I don't think you should cut these out of your estimate. Why? First off, you aren't going to sit in the house every single day. You're going to go out to lunch, catch up with your old friends, start new hobbies, possibly do some work around the house. You need to drive to get to these places. That will replace a good portion of your driving to and from work each day, probably more. Secondly, of all these things, they cost money. Money that you currently are not spending, meaning your spending will either stay the same or even increase in retirement. Less any money spent using your credit cards, as they will go away after you file your bankruptcy. Once you determine a rough estimate how much you are spending, you're going to have to determine how long you're going to have to live, your lifespan. The experts suggest you assume this to be either 85 or 90 years old. Why so high? Well, medicine and healthcare is increasing our life expectancies. You don't want to estimate that you'll live to 80 and save enough to make it to that age and then live to 85. You'll run out of money. It's better to have enough money left over than none at all. For this assumption, take 90 minus the age you plan to retire. Then take that answer and multiply it by the annual spending amount. Here's an example. Assume you calculated $40,000 in annual spending and you want to retire at 68. This formula is 90 minus 68 is 22, and 22 multiplied by 40,000 gives you $880,000. That's how much you should have in your bank account when you're ready to retire to give you $40,000 a year. But there's a problem with this number. It doesn't take into account inflation. But for the sake of this tutorial, please visit our website at the link we've shown right here and use the formula that we've shown on that page to determine your own personal retirement needs that include inflation. You will be surprised. Lucky enough to have a pension? Well, pensions are only going to give you about 18% of your retirement needs. So in our example, you're going to have about 18% of that $880,000. This is according to the Social Security Administration. Add that to the income you might expect from Social Security, and it will probably still fall short, especially if you're currently in debt and not saving for retirement. A reduced standard of living is hardly the stuff the golden age of retirement dreams are made of, and Social Security was not designed to be a retirement type of a pension. What we've shown you in the past few slides is that debt is robbing you. And unless you want to be homeless and unemployed or living with your children, the obvious decision is that debt must go. You need to start saving today, and we can help you. So what are your options? Well, basically there's only three. Let's take a look. Your first option is called debt negotiation. And this is basically settling with your creditors for a percentage of what you owe them. Typically, a creditor will take 30 to 50 cents, 50 cents being the worst case, on the dollar as a settlement in full. The downside is that your credit is legally obligated to send you a 1099, miscellaneous, at the end of the tax year for the difference. This is called debt forgiveness and is a taxable event according to the IRS. According to qualify for debt negotiation, you need cash. So if you owe $20,000, you would need $6,000 to $10,000 to settle all of your debts. Be sure that you don't attempt to settle a few, then run out of the cash, then have to declare bankruptcy, because then you've wasted a lot of money. Going back a second on the 1099, very rarely do the creditors send it out. We can count on one hand, maybe two hands, the number of 1099s our clients get and call us about them. So it's a very, very, very rare instance, although they are supposed to do that. But you can get out of it paying the debt forgiveness tax if you are insolvent or you're bankrupt. You can check with your accountant about being insolvent. There's a special form the IRS has declaring your insolvency to get out of any debt forgiveness. Option 2 is called consumer credit counseling. What this means is that you basically to pay 2% of the balance owed each month. This is through a nonprofit agency that's managed, that works out a plan through the credit card companies with your creditor. But you'll pay 2% of the balance each month. And for an example, assume you owe $20,000 in credit card debt. Under the Consumer Credit Counseling Plan, you would pay $400 a month for 50 months, assuming some of the creditors agree to freeze the interest. Some will, some won't. To qualify, in this example, you need $400 a month left over after paying all of your necessities, your overhead. Note that the Consumer Credit Counseling Plan, you pay back 100% of your debt as opposed to 33 to 50% using debt negotiation tactics mentioned in option 1. In some cases, consumer credit counseling services won't take you. If you have lawsuits filed, they won't accept you. They can't stop foreclosures, wage garnishments, or bank levies. Also, your credit report is red flagged to note that you are in a credit repayment program, so getting new credit will be very difficult during their 50-plus month program. If you don't qualify for consumer credit counseling or debt negotiation, you only have one option left, and that is bankruptcy. But which chapter? Bankruptcy makes you qualify. There are two chapters, 7 and 13. Chapter 7 is what's called a liquidation bankruptcy, which means that all of your unsecured debt is wiped out. That means your Visa, MasterCard, doctors, and hospitals. Your secured debt, you can continue making payments, such as house payments or car payments. You're in and out of bankruptcy in Chapter 7 in approximately 90 to 100 days, with one short court appearance in front of the trustee. You're not in front of a judge. Chapter 13 is what's called a reorganization bankruptcy, where you pay to the bankruptcy court whatever is left over from your paycheck after paying all of your necessities of life through a plan of either 36 or 60 months. Obviously, most people don't want to be in and out of bankruptcy as soon as possible so they can start rebuilding their credit. But you need to qualify for Chapter 7 first. To do that, please visit the link shown on our homepage about Do You Qualify to determine if you are eligible for Chapter 7. Well, that's it for this lesson on what you need for retirement income. and the importance of why you need to become debt-free today. The decision is yours, and we hope we've given you enough information to move forward with any option you choose to become debt-free. But do something, please. So, what's stopping you from becoming debt-free today? Is your pride holding you back from getting help? Bankruptcy is a very difficult thing for people to contemplate. We understand that. So is surgery. Oddly, many people are more likely to go ahead with the necessary surgery than they are to call about bankruptcy options or information. The irony is that bankruptcy option may be easier and certainly less painful and less expensive than surgery. And more often, you'll recover from bankruptcy faster. So, the first misconception to overcome: bankruptcy is about failure. False. Bankruptcy is about renewal, not failure. Business ventures fail and are liquidated in bankruptcies every day. People go into it for a fresh start. They may have fallen upon difficult times and have been able to pay their debts back. That's the cause. But the point of the process is to get you back on your feet. So forgive yourself. You have no control over the past. You only have control of the future. Remember that. You only have control of your future. The second misconception is that bankruptcy is a punishment. Even though you've done nothing wrong, debtors expect that their creditors, the trustee and the judge, will line up to torture them like they're in a police interrogation room under lights. In reality, it's more like a loan closing where everyone is verifying the information you provide so that you can get on your way to a fresh start. It's a team effort. If you do your part, the system will do its part to get you through safe and sound, guaranteed. The third misconception: you're the only one filing bankruptcy. Well, let's do some basic math. And almost every year for the past 30 years, more than 1 million cases were filed each year. A large percentage of those were joint, husband and wife, cases. So think about it. You already know people who have filed bankruptcy, we would venture. You aren't alone. Today, right now, thousands of people just like you are about to do something very foolish to avoid seeking information about bankruptcy. You may be about to cash out your 401k or your IRA account to pay your bills. Even though it's exempt, it's protected in your bankruptcy. You might be hiring a debt settlement service to negotiate with your creditors who may end up suing you before you see results from the credit negotiation services. You may be even consider cashing out the equity in your home, even though it's exempt or protected in bankruptcy in most states. And today, like millions of Americans, believe that you are doing just fine financially, mostly because you're keeping up on the minimum payment of all your debt. Even though you aren't saving for your children's college fund, your retirement, or enjoying the fruits of your labor. As we've just showed you how and why in our previous video, you're being robbed in this section. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's important that you learn how credit card debt can negatively impact your financial life. It takes courage to talk to a surgeon if you have a health problem, but deep down you know it's really not going to get better, right? Unless you do something. If your debts are keeping you from important things like saving for your kids' education, replacing your car, being able to retire, or even critical things like your health care, then why haven't you already become a member of our service? And if your answer is that you're afraid or you're too proud to file bankruptcy, then view this video again. Fear and pride are hard to swallow at times. This might be just the time to find out what you don't know can't hurt you. It can help you. For more information, please browse around our site, then get our free first lesson that will help you decide if preparing your own bankruptcy is for you. To do so, please click Grab Your Ticket to Lesson 1 on our homepage. Thanks for listening. We hope this has been some helpful information for you. We'll see you soon.